And so I'm going to today talk a little bit about imazapyr. Here's my agenda. It's really quick. I have about 15 minutes. I'm going to talk about Arsenal, a Powerline, which is the other imazapyr product. That's the current product that's in the marketplace for use on terrestrial. Okay, and then what you're probably all waited for bated breath with is about Habitat, and I'll have an exciting update for you on that today. I'm actually going to turn off my camera. I have two kids working from home today and want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Okay, so Habitat. Hopefully this will change. Great. So you probably are saying, Brad, why you keep talking to me about Arsenal? Well, I can't really talk 100% freely about Habitat because it is not a registered product yet. However, the results that we see with Arsenal are the same as what you're going to see with Habitat. Okay, so that's the reason why I keep on coming back to Arsenal. Now, the other reason I talk about Arsenal, because I know from times past and talking to people in this business and supporters that glyphosate doesn't get 100% of everything. There's sometimes problem patches that keep on coming back. And I can assure you that Arsenal is a great tool in your toolbox to get those tough to reach, tough to kill Phragmites when maybe, those tough to kill Phragmites. Okay, so this was registered back in 2016 and for terrestrial. So not, you can go up to the water's edge if you're using your backpack. However, you can only use it on the land, right? Whereas Habitat, which I'm going to talk about, can be used in and around the water. So imazapyr is the active ingredient. It's got what we call a surfactant in there. So a surfactant, what it does is allows the active ingredient to get through the leaves and get into the plant where it can be translocated down to the root system. Okay. The good thing about Arsenal and Habitat, but Arsenal specifically because it can be used on the land, is that it gets into the roots and shoots and down to the roots, but also it has residual properties. So it can be, when it hits the ground, it also stops new growth of Phragmites from coming up. Okay, and yes, I'm seeing some stuff in the chat. So yeah, you have to be, when you're using a product like mine, you have to be careful of trees, right? On the label, it talks about not being near 2 times the drip line of a tree that you want to save. Okay, so that is a problem. However, much of the Phragmites that we see is in areas where there's where the vegetation is expendable, for lack of a better term. Okay, so the good thing about imazapyr is it only acts in an enzyme that is found in plants, right? So there is no human impact to this product. Okay, you apply it in late summer, so we suggest August, September timeframe is the best time. You can be October is even fine. It's highly systemic and has a long usage. It was only registered in 2016 here, but it's been used in the US for a long, long time. And that goes for Habitat as well. Habitat was used in water in the US starting in 1995 and was fully registered in 2003. Okay, so here you can kind of see the different efficacy. You can see the rate range that we have, 3 liters to 4.68 liters, which is very similar to what we have on the Habitat label. And you can see that glyphosate alone gets you a little bit, in the trials that we did, gets you a little bit below 90%, whereas the Arsenal gets you up there. And you say, oh, there's not much difference there. And I would say, well, if you're going back year on year, a 95% kill will save you a lot of work on your callbacks, or you're going back to fix it. The other thing I would see as you're going through these pictures here, you're going to notice that all the Phragmites is laying on its side, okay? Laying on its side, and that's another great benefit of imazapyr. I can't guarantee it, but the results that we tend to see is that about a year after treatment, the Phragmites is lying on its side because of the weakness caused by the total complete kill. And so that helps you. You don't have to go back and do a lot of work to restore. The native vegetation just comes right up through, and you don't need to cut and all that sort of thing. Okay, someone wanted to know the effects on neighboring plants. Okay, so imazapyr, so chemistries can spread two ways, right? They can spread through the soil and they can spread through the air. Imazapyr is a salt, and so its volatilization is very low, and so it does not spread through the air. So what you spray, it stays on. It is also, it doesn't move much in the soil either. So you can pretty, like, other than trees, right? Trees you want to keep away from the drip line because the roots will pick it up through the soil zone. However, something like grasses or plants, basically what is sprayed is the line where it stays. You do have to be careful if it's really gravelly soil because there is a potential that it moves in really gravel, coarse soil, right? So, but even then, it's only a foot or two. It's not like a kilometer or anything like that. Someone wanted to know, what is the glyphosate application rate there? I think that was, I cannot remember. Thanks for that. I'll have to look back in my notes and see if I can put that back in the chat later. 7 liters rings a bell, but I'd have to go back and check. Okay, so this isn't a frag picture, but this is a dog strangling vine picture, which I know is rampant across many parts in meadows and things like that. You have to be careful in the forest, as I've mentioned. However, really effective with dog strangling vine. What it does is basically it translocates that chemistry to the roots. The target grow, and then you can see 24 months later, you can't even tell that there was a chemistry used. Okay. And here again, you see the Phragmites lying on its side, and you can see 1 year after treatment, the first picture to the left, there's already wild, the natural vegetation is coming back, and then 2 years, again, you can't even tell that it's gone. Okay, so lots of times there's a little bit of fear that when you put down a non-selective, that the area that you place it on will never come back, and we just don't simply see that. Okay. Okay, so just before I go on to Habitat, let's see what the question is. In the US, managers find the removal of the standing dead after Habitat is still required to encourage reestablishment of the native vegetation. Is the formulation being used in Canada different, such that no management of standing dead is required? I would say that's dependent on how the frag reacts to the chemistry. All I'm saying is that the tests that we have seen here in Canada, the frag tends to lay down the side, which means that animals can get through it. That means that the native vegetation can grow back up through it, and there shouldn't be there should not or may not be any more action required on the behalf of managers. That's all. Habitat Aqua. Okay, exciting. Most of this you've seen before. The only new thing is that last one. So the other thing that before I get into this, I want to say is this is not a registered product yet. Okay, it's exciting times because I think we're well on our way, but it is not registered. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is proposed, and it could change with some of the comments that come back. And with further PMRA review. Okay, so what I'm saying here is proposed language, and we just have to be a little bit careful here that we don't go and say that it's a registered product. Okay, so it was registered back in 2003. We, in Canada here, because it was the right thing to do, as Janice said, we did the registration submission in 2015. Typically in Canada, that is a 16-month program, so it should have it pop out if everything goes right in 16 months. The PMRA, because it's being sprayed over water, has done a really good job and thorough job to ensure that, I guess, that it's exceptionally safe, because it's now just starting to get some movement now. Okay, so, but I also would like to thank the provinces for their work in lobbying the PMRA, that and places like the OIPC for lobbying the government to tell them this is a needed product, because otherwise I don't think it would have moved. Okay, so we can see we've used it over the last few years, emergency uses and research authorizations, both for aerial and ground, over all the different species that will be on the label. What was exciting was just before Christmas, on December 18th, it was posted for public commentary, right? So the public commentary session is open from from December 18th to February 1st. Okay, so people that are on the phone here are welcome to go into the website and to make their comments about the product, which potentially could help a speedier approval process. However, that being said, I mean, typically, if everything goes well, it stops February 1st, the consultation ends, and then there's probably 2 to 3 months for the PMRA to go through any comments and make any changes that they need to because of the comments. And then it could be a registered product, potentially end of April, beginning of May. So that's kind of what we see happening. And if that is the case, if everything goes smoothly, we will produce and we will have product ready in August, or July, August timeframe, just in time for the season. Okay, so that's pretty exciting from my point of view, because I've been coming to this event for years now, 3 years I think, talking about hopes and dreams, and now we actually see some tangible movement. So what does the label look like? What does the label look like? So again, this is a proposed label. So, but the rates for Phrag, so first off, the species that this will cover is Phragmites, flowering rush, and Spartina, or cordgrass. Okay, we are working on potentially adding knotweed for very quickly after registration, but we'll see how that goes. But the Phrag rate is 3 to 4.68, so the exact same rates as used by Arsenal Powerline. Okay. The great thing about it is you can use it in and around specific aquatic sites. And you can make that application with directed or broadcast. You can use ground equipment, water equipment, or helicopter. So we've been able to get really wide variety of uses or ways to application methods to get this on. Please, please, please use a surfactant. Okay, so this product is a water-based formula. It does not have a surfactant in it. So, and the only one that is approved in Canada is AquaSurf. Okay, so please make sure that if you're in and around the water, use AquaSurf. If you're only doing terrestrial with Habitat, which you can use other surfactants. But over water, make sure you add AquaSurf. Okay. Buffer zones. There's no buffer zones. However, as we've talked about before, you can have damages to non-target organisms, right? So make sure you look at the chart in the label for what those recommendations are, how far away to stay from non-targets that you want to keep. Restrictions. This is a restricted label to aquatic applicators, which is a good thing. We don't probably want everybody being able to spray over water, right? We want those that are trained in it to be able to do so. Okay, so that's one thing. Drinking water within 1 kilometer if let's say someone has draws water from a lake, you can't if you're within 1 kilometer of the application site, they have to turn off their water and they have to leave it off for 48 hours. Okay, and then there's no application to ditches and water to be used for irrigation. That's another thing we want to go back in and improve a little bit the language around that, but currently the label, the way it sits, there is no use for irrigation. What we're worried about there is impacts to crops, right? Some crops are very impacted by imazapyr, so we have to be careful there. Okay, and that's kind of the end of my presentation. If you have a second, I think there was another couple of questions. The other one was, is it possible to access the studies on this? So the studies are proprietary. However, there are a lot of studies that were done on imazapyr or habitat in the US specifically that can be accessed. There is lots and lots of data on how imazapyr works on Phragmites. And actually, the most of it I've seen is actually on Spartina, but it would work similar ways. And give you a similar view on the environmental profile. Thank you about knotweed. The application rate is this, I believe it's the same as in the US. Yes, I believe so. I'm not sure what Virginia's notes are. I don't understand that. Why is the data proprietary? The data is proprietary because that's our intellectual property, right? So all the testing that we do, the environmental work that we do, that's costs millions of dollars to do for each of the chemistries, and so we don't just give it out. If habitat can't be used 1 kilometer of drinking water, what about other water for fish and amphibians? As I mentioned, there's no impact to swimming. There's no impact to the fish or amphibians. This molecule doesn't impact those. It's just for drinking, and it's just out of an abundance of caution that we suggest that. Okay, I think that is it, and I probably I used more than my time, so I will, depending on how we want to do this. Oh, let's see. Do you have more information about the use of arsenal near residential areas? We do not currently use arsenal for frag treatment based on some wording on the label about residential use. So arsenal is it's a commercial product, right? It's not supposed to be used by a homeowner. However, it's for non-crop uses, right? So if you had someone who was a licensed applicator, they could use in and around a house if so be. But you got to remember that what is sprayed, I mean, like if you were using it around your grass might not grow for a while, for probably 2 years. Okay, Janice, I see you're back on.
I'm back on. I'm chasing you off the stage, Brad. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting today to provide this information. It's really invaluable for us. So I really